Welcome, fellow horror hounds, and welcome to the latest episode of Talk and Stalk, your unholy home for horror. I'm your host, as always, Barry, and I'm joined today by my corrupted co-host, fellow friend and film fan, the diabolical Darren.
Hi, how's it going? It's good to be here. Looking really forward to covering this film today.
Very glad to have you back. Obviously, our last podcast together was actually on Dario Argento's directorial debut, 1970's The Bird with Crystal Plumage. Obviously a movie that really helped to popularise the giallo. And today's focus is going to be on what is widely regarded as being one of the very best giallos out there, and certainly one of Argento's best films. Some would say his best, and that is Deep Red, Profondo Rosso, released in 1975. Now, Darren, what was kind of your introduction to this film? How old do you reckon you were when you first watched this?
Well, I was fairly late coming into this film. I basically got out of the horror. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I got out of the horror genre for a while and got back into it in the early 2000s, to mid 2000s. So I had this Brentwood DVD pack, and the transfers on it were terrible. And I popped the one film in one day, and it was called The Hatchet Murders, and that's how I first saw this film. And to be honest, I wasn't very impressed. It was really poorly, put on DVD. It was like a VHS rip.
Yeah.
So then going down the line, then not too long after, I realised it was called Deep Red, and I realised there was some good versions out there, and I decided to give it a go.
Yeah.
And fell in love.
Yeah, it's, as I said, widely regarded by many giallo fans to be one of the very best. This is certainly one of Argento's best movies. As I said, some people would say his best. My personal favourite is Suspiria, but this really isn't far behind it. This was obviously released during the golden age of giallo. Giallos were being churned out left, right and centre in the 1970s. I mean, obviously, it dates back to the 60s, but they really didn't this subgenre really didn't hit its peak until the 70s. And I believe it was really, it was a critical and commercial success. And I believe this actually was his first giallo after Four Flies on Grey Velvet, which was actually a box office disappointment. That film didn't do well.
Yeah, absolutely. He then concentrated that he wanted to get out of the giallo genre, and he wanted to concentrate on, I think it was a drama called The 5 Days, which he made in 1973.
Yeah.
And it was just an absolute flop on every level.
Yeah.
So he just basically went back to the drawing board, and he thought, well, I'm going to go back to the giallo, the thriller. That's what made me, so I'll give it another go.
Yeah.
And obviously this film was, what came out of it. But what you said about it being his best film, I think this is his best film. I think it's the greatest giallo ever made. It's not necessarily my favourite of his.
Yeah.
As I do like quite a lot more of his films, and Suspiria is my top.
Yeah.
That's the benchmark for me. But as regarding best film, most well-made film, this is the one.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's certainly, without a doubt, it's very masterfully made. Argento already showed that he was kind of a master of his craft. Even with his debut, Bird with a Crystal Plumage, he's got a very defined style and, excellent visual composition and just great use of camera. Very kind of experimental director. And yeah, Profondo Rosso, Deep Red is incredibly well made. And it's like you said, The 5 Days of Milan was a box office flop. He tried to veer away from giallo. It didn't go according to plan. And he went back to his roots, stick to what you're best at. Like Wes Craven. Not to go too much off topic, he actually tried making a non-thriller / horror movie with a film called Music of the Heart. And it was a failure. It was a box office flop.
It was, and it's regarded quite well amongst some fans. But have you noticed with this film? To me, it's like a remake of The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and we'll get more into that as we go.
Yeah,
but it's pretty much the same kind of outline plot.
Yeah, there are definitely echoes of that. I mean, what this film does, obviously kind of expanded upon with Bird with the Crystal Plumage as well, is what really makes this film. Well, let's just quickly get on to two of the things that this film's notable for. For one, Daria Nicoletti, I believe her name is. Nicolodi, sorry. Of course, his then wife, who actually collaborated with Dario on a few of his films. This was actually the first Argento film in which he starred. I believe when she actually auditioned, he just fell for her. I know it was quite a turbulent relationship after that, but they had Asia Argento, which I'm sure you're very thankful for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's probably my top girl.
Yeah, but
they fell in love and they went on then right up until making opera, and I think that's his best period while she was in his life.
Yeah, but opera, good giallo. Probably my second favourite Argento film of the 80s, I would say. I really do like opera. Now, her role in this film, in Deep Red, is very... Obviously, she stars alongside David Hemmings, who's obviously the lead in this film. And there's a very kind of... a very playful nature between the two. Now, I realise in the only cut I've seen of this film, actually, is the 2-hour, 7-minute version, which, it's great. Admittedly, there's some little pacing issues, I think, kind of here and there, because it really kind of focuses on the kind of the banter, if you will, the playfulness between the two, which is quite cheesy, and as you've said before, he does like Argento, while his films are quite, they can be quite brutal and sexual in places, he likes to inject humour. He likes to inject some kind of nodding little humour into his films.
Yeah, I think you will be shocked when you see the export version, because basically everything Dario Nicolodi does is pretty much omitted from the film.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like she's just a bit part character, whereas in the longer version that you saw, she's very prominent.
Yeah, she has a lot of screen time, she does. There's a lot of scenes between them, and admittedly, it does slow the film down a bit, admittedly. The film isn't without its flaws, but it's a great movie, it's a great mystery, and I think just all of the elements of Argento's style all come together really nicely in this film. And, I mean, I'll admit, again, it's a really kind of funny scene and stuff. I love the scene where they arm wrestle.
Yeah, there's a lot of and the funny stuff with the car when he gets in the car
down on it. I mean, the arm wrestle apparently took 70 rehearsals, much to Dario Argento's annoyance. He couldn't stand it. It took so long to do that whole scene, and he's a director that really doesn't like to do too many takes. But I love it. Like, I mean, there's certain things that David Hemmings says to her that you probably wouldn't get away with in today's political correctness age, where he says about women are fragile.
With the movement going on at the moment.
Yeah, they're really. What is it again? He says they're really fragile, they're really delicate, and then she offers him an arm wrestle, and obviously she cheats to win it, and it's just that reaction, that whole "I've been beaten by a woman" kind of thing in an arm wrestle.
I think Dario was a bit of a misogynist, though, wasn't he? Really?
He is.
Comes across.
He is. I believe it may have been Daria. I do believe there was. I can't remember who it was now. It might have even been Asia as well. They did actually say that her father is a misogynist. But and also earlier on in the film as well, she asks him, why did you want to be a pianist? And he says, my psychiatrist or whatever said I had anger problems, and every time I'm hitting the keys, I'm imagining I'm bashing my father's mouth in. And he says, why did you become a journalist? And she was like, what was it again? He says, us pianists, us artists are, we're fragile. We're not like you journalists who've got elephant hide for skin.
Yeah.
And then he touches her face, and she's like, see, it's really delicate. I do kind of like some of that playful little interactions that they have during the course of the film. She's likable.
I think she carries the longer version. I do. I like. Don't get me wrong. I like David Hemmings and that.
Yeah.
But I really think she carries the longer version.
Yeah, she does. There's a real cheesy scene, isn't there? There's a real cheesy moment. I can't remember. Yeah, when she finds out a picture of his ex.
That's right,
and she's leaving, and it plays that kind of score to it, and she's leaving, and then she turns around and shuts the door. It's that kind of score that accompanies the scene and that.
Did you realise that the picture was actually of Dario Argento's ex-wife that she throws into the bin?
I only learned that recently, in fact.
So it's symbolising that his new girlfriend at the time, obviously, is chucking, with a little nod to that. Apparently, his ex-wife took real umbrage at it and phoned him up, but he didn't reply, apparently.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, quickly to get on the score. I mean, again, another notable aspect of this film. This was Dario and Goblin's first collaboration.
Yes, and they wanted to get Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Before Goblin.
Yeah, and I believe, didn't he try to get Deep Purple for Four Flies on Grey Velvet as well?
That's right, yeah, and totally would have been different films, wouldn't they, really?
Yeah, they both turned it down, and apparently Goblin they couldn't believe it, because Goblin were basically nobodies at the time. Very kind of transformative rock, if you will, and right from the opening of Deep Red, the score is just great.
It just gets you, doesn't it, straight away.
The score is just fantastic. It's my second favourite It's my second favourite Goblin score. First being Suspiria.
Same year again. Yeah.
But this is very close behind it, and also Tenebrae. Tenebrae.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Great score.
I think this is almost a perfect film in every way. And I also think this is his best acted film as well, because he didn't really pay much attention to the acting of roles and stuff like that, because he was more all about the kill sequences.
Yeah.
But I think this film generally has got the acting. I think that's why it's regarded the best giallo ever made.
Yeah, I mean, this film has certainly. I mean, I love just from the opening. I say the opening score, and I love that visual style, that depiction where the curtains roll, and we're seeing that parapsychology seminar. And we've just got that huge red, red everywhere. The
red is throughout the whole film. I know it's an obvious thing to say because it's in the title, but it plays a massive part in the whole of the film, red.
Yeah, it does. And right from that opening, first frame. And, this movie, obviously, as we said, Dario Argento is renowned for his murder set pieces. It's really what he's become really renowned for. And, this movie, its murders are kind of few and far between, because there's quite a gap between each kill. But the kills are truly memorable, each and every one of them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the first, when you get the flashback of where it's Christmas time and you see the silhouette of someone killing someone.
Yeah.
And then you got the lad, I don't even think we see him at that. You just see the boy's shoes.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's just sets up the whole film fantastic.
It does, because we don't actually see the murder happen. We see it's done in shadow on the wall. Again, like a really interesting way to do that. And,
but there's clues throughout the whole film. If you pay close attention, there's a clue throughout the whole film. There's like 5 or 6 really big clues as to who the killer is.
Yeah, there is. We will get onto that very shortly. There is definitely for eagle-eyed viewers. Now, I watched this with my fiance. She picked up on it. That visual clue that you're talking about.
The one that throws the film wide open.
Yeah.
With the mirror.
Yeah.
She caught it, did she?
She caught it. Yeah, she got it. I'm not shocked, because she's so eagle-eyed. I've seen so many films of her, and she just notices everything. And it was a very much a blink and you'll miss it moment, and obviously the vast majority of people watching it for the first time wouldn't have picked up on that. But yeah, she noticed it.
That's amazing, because you've got to know what you're looking for with that.
Yeah, she just happens to seem to have eyes on every single inch of the screen, and I don't know. But
did that deflect her enjoyment of the film though?
No, she still really liked it.
Oh, good.
She still really liked it. So, talking about the first murder, which again is something that very much became a staple for Argento's films. Obviously, what's the name of the psychic lady again? The first victim.
Helga Ullman?
That's it. And she's obviously, brutally killed with a hatchet. And by the way, getting back to the title that you come out with, The Hatchet Murders, that just sounds like a B movie, doesn't it?
Oh, it's just a throwaway title.
Yeah.
It was, 40 minutes of it was taken out.
Wow.
So you can imagine what that was like.
Yeah. I mean, like Halloween's original title, The Babysitter Murders. The film was originally going to be called that. I mean, that sounds like a television movie, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, look at you've got Tenebrae as well. That was cut down and called Unsane. And then you got Phenomena, which was cut down and called Creepers.
Yeah, that's it. And I don't like that title.
Market.
Yeah, I really don't like the title of Creepers. But yeah, I believe that Deep Red's working title was The Saber-Toothed Tiger.
That's right, yeah, and that's strange.
Yeah, which was kind of matching what he was doing. He was kind of following that trend of his animal-related, animal names in the film's title and that. But yeah, Deep Red, as I say, yeah, obviously came off the back of a pretty unsuccessful giallo, and he came back full force with Deep Red. But yeah, getting to the murder, obviously she's smashed through the glass, which again has actually happened in quite a few Argento movies, hasn't it?
Yeah, this was the first time, I believe, that he tried that. Yeah. But there's the one in Phenomena, obviously, when his daughter at the start of the film.
Yeah.
There's obviously one in Suspiria.
Yeah.
There's probably more down the line.
Yeah. And
but in this kill with this psychoanalyst or whatever she is, there's again this like the POV shots of the killer.
Yeah.
And you've got the use of the music.
Yeah.
And we're basically misled to think that the killer is a man.
Yeah.
Which is another real clever thing to do.
Yeah, as Bird with Crystal Plumage. Obviously,
that's right.
the big killer reveal in that, threw a lot of people off. A lot of that certainly got a lot of
Four
people.
Flies is again as well.
Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah, Four Flies. That's definitely a giallo I need to return to, because Four Flies I haven't seen for a long time now. I do remember the killer in that movie actually wearing like a kind of a weird smiley mask or something.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day.
But
yeah,
I would highly recommend going back to watching that film, because I think it's a lot better than what people portray it to be.
Yeah, so, it's one of them films that probably does have a following. It just, unfortunately didn't do well, did it, upon release. But Cat o' Nine Tails, not to go too much off topic, Cat o' Nine Tails was never really a giallo that I was really a big fan of.
Same year, for me, it's probably one of his worst films, and I know he regards it as one of his worst films.
Yeah.
There's some great kill sequences with the train and that, but yeah, it just falls flat for me, that film.
Yeah, I think with Deep Red, yeah, I mean it really sets up great opening murder. Obviously David Hemmings. The film, like Bird with a Crystal Plumage, and obviously a very recurring theme in Argento's films, is somebody is witness to the murder and they feel like they've seen something, but they can't quite put their finger on what that was, and they feel like it's vital to uncovering the mystery. And of course, in this case, it's apparently a painting that seemingly has gone missing. He feels like he's seen a painting. Now, of course, as the movie develops, we know exactly, what that is. And like with Bird with Crystal Plumage, he basically, he becomes a detective. He actually becomes obsessed with this case, doesn't he?
Yeah, Sam from The Bird with Crystal Plumage is almost exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
He's obviously a foreigner as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you realise, but David Hemmings wasn't originally cast for the film.
Okay.
The guy they cast was the lead in the House of Laughing Windows.
Oh, interesting.
I think his name, I'll probably butcher this, Lino Capiliccio.
I think you got close enough. Yeah.
But he
Okay.
had a car accident, apparently. So they
Oh.
brought David Hemmings in because Dario really liked the film Blow Up from 1966.
And he's very much kind of reprising his role from that, isn't he? Very similar.
Exactly, again, very similar.
Yeah.
I've seen that film, but I wasn't, I don't feel that, I guess, the love that deserves, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, with the set pieces really stand out. Obviously the opening murder, and of course we get the second murder. Now, from what I understand, what they really wanted to do in this film was to create murders that people could kind of relate a degree of pain to. So, for example, instead of like being shot and things like that, everyone knows what boiling water feels like. Everyone knows what it feels like to probably fall and hit the head or fall over and stuff. And obviously with the third murder, the second murder, which is really horrible, being drowned in this boiling water. Again, like Halloween 2 in 81 is quite reminiscent of it.
He sets the whole scene up well because we got the doll hanging from a rope.
Yep.
It's like really iconic, and then we see the killer's eye. Which I feel he must have seen Black Christmas. Black Christmas must have been an influence on this. I would imagine.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you've got the killer hiding in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
And then you've got that creepy nursery rhyme that plays wherever the killer is around.
Which is assuming is kind of a trigger point, because obviously we hear the song at the beginning of the movie. It's a children's song, and the song with all the murders, and as well as the attempted murder, if you will, on David Hemmings' character, the children's score accompanies. And presumably that's kind of there's very kind of Freudian motifs to this film.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it works on every level.
Yeah, the character of Carlo,
right? I wanted to mention him.
Well, clearly a very troubled individual, but very likable character. A very likable character.
Dario has a lot of gay characters.
He does, yeah.
And he basically wanted to do a giallo back in the 1970s. I'm not sure if it was after Deep Red, or I would imagine it was just after Deep Red. And he wanted to do one full of gay characters, but he got talked out of the situation.
It would have been
would have been different.
For its time, that would have been very bold, very very daring. Look at Cruising, starring Al Pacino, directed by William Friedkin. That was a movie that was pretty much reviled by most critics upon release because of the, what was going on around the time. We're not going to go too much off topic, but it was a very challenging film, and I think that Al Pacino actually found it a massive challenge.
I think that film's incredible. I'd like to cover that one day. Yeah,
it's a really good film, Cruising. But as I say, for the time it was released, it was very daring. I mean, that was the second time that William Friedkin had really challenged audiences. Obviously, he did it with The Exorcist in 1973.
He's another one of my favourite directors, to be honest.
Friedkin, yeah. Do you know what's funny about Friedkin? Not to go too off topic, but he actually doesn't like it when Exorcist is described as a horror movie. He actually calls it a psychological drama.
It's so not.
It's a horror movie. It's whatever way you dress it up, it's a horror film. But
he has, over the years, he's sort of calmed down a bit with it, because he was very aggressive for a while, but he seems to have chilled out a bit over the last few years. It's a good documentary, actually. I won't get off topic too much. Called Leap of Faith.
Okay.
All about his William Friedkin's directorial, everything. So, yeah. Well, so we got Carlo. Do you notice that Carlo's boyfriend is actually played by a girl?
It is actually a woman. Yep. I was a little unsure when I first saw the character. I wasn't quite sure if the person was actually male or female, but I looked into it, and actually a female.
But he likes, because he done a transgender lady in Tenebrae with a scene on the beach. So he does like to mix it up, and he knows that's going to be, that's going to put the viewers are going to be like, what the hell, like.
Yeah. There was
So he
one.
does that.
There was
Shock.
one scene that really made me laugh that we didn't talk about in the last podcast. The bird with crystal plumage is a scene where they do the lineup for the
Yeah.
suspects, and there's a transvestite that comes in. It's like it just made me laugh because they were like, they shouldn't, he shouldn't be here in with a pervert. You got like these exhibitionists, flashes and that. You've got a guy that's done bad things to younger people, and then you got this transvestite that shows up. I don't
Couldn't
know.
get away with that today.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So yeah, with the murders, there's certainly a build up. There's a build up to each murder, and for example, I love the little moment actually with Olga, where she actually, she goes to the door and she senses something. And obviously she reels back and then the killer comes, crashing through. And I just love when she's actually giving the seminar, that whole scene where she actually detects that there's some kind of, how do I put it? There's like a bad vibe. Somebody in the audience watching has actually committed some horrible deeds. And obviously we don't see who that person is, and we see the person leaving and that.
Did you know that scene, the whole scene, he wanted to put it in Four Flies of Grey on Grey Velvet?
No, I didn't. No.
But again, he couldn't really write in the sort of supernatural aspect to it, so he didn't bother. He put it on the shelf and used it for this film.
Okay. Because it's interesting actually as well though, because talking about, psychic parapsychology and so forth, it did become a massive plot element for Phenomena.
That's right, yeah. He seems to have his tropes that he knows is going to work.
Yeah.
And I think, they don't become repetitive either, because the way he does them is so unique.
Yeah. I mean, he stylistically, he's a really efficient. I mean, Phenomena was, 10 years later as well. It was released in 85. And, let's talk about the Black Glove Killer. Obviously, it's Argento again, isn't it? Argento.
Yeah.
It's always his hands wearing the black gloves. I believe he performs them by himself because he just thinks it's quicker and easier than teaching the moves to an actor, and he doesn't want to run the risk of having to do retakes or anything.
That's why you can just if something goes wrong, he can just film it himself and put it back into the film later on.
Yeah. And one of the other notable things in this film as well, concerning one of the murders, is this is quite often on poster art, etc. It's the scene in which the doll comes into the room.
Yes, this is the most iconic scene in the film for me.
Yeah, which is really kind of creepy, and then obviously
it's almost got like a supernatural element, because we don't know how that puppet is actually walking. We don't actually see.
No.
So that's probably the only slight cheat in the film. All the rest, it's there plain to see. You've got the clues and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a slight cheat, but you gotta love it.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they kind of engineered that and all that. But this film certainly delivers on the deaths. I mean, the killer reveal, of course, is Carlo's mum, but the last person you'd ever expect, to be quite honest.
I can't remember. I don't think I worked it out the first time I seen it.
No,
I can't quite remember.
It was quite a surprise. I mean, it really points towards Carlo, but at the same time, for people that can remember, Carlo was actually outside. Carlo actually saw the killer walking off.
Yeah, again, and he's clever like that, Argento. He puts the clues in. Yeah. So, as long as you follow the clues, there's a logical, explanation to who it can be.
Yeah. And his mother's demise is obviously, again, really notable.
I think, that's probably, again, without going back to his other films, there's the ending to Four Flies on Grey Velvet, where you've got the killer's demise in the car.
Yeah.
This is up there with absolutely one of the best kills that's ever been filmed, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, Carlo really kind of feels sorry for him, because, as I say, he's really kind of a troubled individual. We know that, but there's a real kind of likability to him at the same time. Whenever he's on screen, I mean, we can fully understand why he's ended up as messed up as he is, due to what he gets to witness. That's obviously revealed near the end of the movie. Let's talk about quickly the creepy little girl that's kind of thrown into the film.
Yeah, Nicolette Almy.
Yep, the girl with the who likes hurting animals.
That's right. So, funny enough, I was reading a book on the film yesterday, and I think you know the guy, you know Richard, don't you? You've been talking
Oh
to
yeah,
from.
yeah.
He put in his book. He put something along the lines of, "That wonder what this girl is going to grow up to be like. She's sticking pins in lizards."
Well, I can tell you now that the FBI actually lists animal cruelty as one of the 3 major signs of future murder.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what he was hinting at as
Yeah,
well.
prolonged bedwetting, arson, and animal cruelty are deemed to be the 3 big warning signs. And yeah, because there's that scene where her dad is like telling her to come towards her and that, and he was like, I've told you not to do this, and he slaps her around the face, and she's got that like evil maniacal little grin on her face.
Yeah, and again, I don't think you could probably get away with that today because it'd be classed as child abuse, wouldn't it?
Yes, we're living in a very different age now. The 70s was one hell of a decade
It
for
was, yeah.
exploitation and what you could try and get away with on screen, etc. There was a lot of oddities. There was a lot of weird films coming out in the 70s, the likes of The Baby, Eraserhead, among many, many others. And yeah, let's talk about, like, for example, they go to the house, doesn't it? David Hemmings goes to the house to try and uncover this mystery.
Yeah, and it's a very creepy, creepy sort of house. You just don't know what to expect when he gets there, and you've got the old. It's a great scene because you've got the old music.
Yeah.
When he's falling off the side of the house, and it's quite suspenseful
Yeah.
and all that. But then those drawings are really creepy, really unnerving.
Yeah. Yeah.
The child drawings.
Yeah, he's unlike The Bird with Crystal Plumage, because in that film, the lead character actually. I actually meant to say this on the previous podcast, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage one, is that he actually does kind of get some kind of help and assistance from the police, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I know the police in this film is more. They come across as just idiots.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They don't come across very well at all.
They almost always are in horror movies. The police are inept, but I remember, like, for example, in Bed with Crystal Plumage, he actually goes to the I'm pretty certain he's in the scenes with them, but they're kind of like doing an analysis on the glove and an analysis on it and that, like CSI before CSI was around.
Oh yeah, with that
the 2000 show.
That computer in that room is just laughable.
Yeah.
Because the laptop you're on now is probably 100 times more efficient than that.
Yeah, technology's come a long way. But David Hemmings in this film has no help aside from Dario's character. He is doing this all himself. As you said, the police don't really play any kind of big part in this story, in this movie.
No, when they do, they're just useless, and they.
Yeah.
It's I don't know why he takes it upon himself, because I think I'd run the opposite way if I got caught up in all this. Like.
Yeah, I suppose we wouldn't have a film though, would we?
That's right. Yeah.
I think David Hemmings does. I mean, I don't know. I think David Hemmings is really good in this role. I like the bit when he's trying to make the telephone call and he's doing it in the diner, in the cafe.
Yeah.
And there's a guy right next to him, like. Is it like the coffee machine or something? There's loads of steam.
Yeah, it's like an espresso machine.
Yeah.
But I think Hemmings is he comes across as a bit of a neurotic type of person, but apparently he was a little bit like that in real life.
Okay.
During filming, Hemmings has said that Dario was really hard on him.
Okay.
And he could not understand why.
Yeah.
And then when he was interviewed not long before he died, he put on record that he had no good recollections of the film.
Oh.
So read into that what you will.
Yeah.
I know Dario liked him.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just trying to get that little bit extra out of him. I would imagine.
Yeah.
A bit like Fulci used to do with his females.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He likes to put them through the paces. I mean, the film as well. The film is was actually shot in Turin, despite actually being set in Rome. The film was mainly shot in Turin. Now, I do believe there were some additional scenes shot in Rome and Perugia, but apparently Argento didn't want to do Rome because of all the tourists. It caused too much problems, etc. All the tourists around, etc. And apparently there were more practicing Satanists in Turin than in any
Really?
other European city.
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
didn't. I mean, I'm not a an authority to talk about on Satanism. I don't understand, etc. But apparently, at least it was being kind of mentioned at the time that in the 70s there were a lot of practicing Satanists, and he felt as though that would have some kind of underlying tone on the movie.
Right, that's funny that because Sergio Martino did a giallo called All the Colors of the Dark,
Yeah.
and that has satanic. It's a giallo and it's a
Yeah.
a serial killer type of film, but
Yeah.
it has satanic influences. So maybe that was a thing around the same time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah,
But he liked Turin though, didn't he, Dario? He liked filming in Turin more than Rome,
yeah,
as you just said.
yeah,
Because I think he was more familiar with the place
yeah.
as well, and Turin comes up a lot in his films.
I love because being from the UK and obviously you're from Wales. I just love seeing the locations and these Italian giallos. Even Spanish giallos. Obviously, Spain has produced quite a number of giallos over the years, and I just love seeing these locations that we don't get here.
Well, they're just like another character of the film for
Yeah.
me. They are, like you say, it's part of the beauty of watching these films.
Yeah,
It's the scenery is outstanding. It's just
yeah,
visually, this is what Dario does. Visually, he knows where to set up a camera. He knows, it's just unreal. It's really good.
yeah. He's certainly someone that pretty much mastered the art, and I know he wanted to veer away from giallos because basically giallos were coming out left, right, and centre. There were so many directors, Sergio Martino being one, who has directed some great giallos. Actually, Martino.
Yeah, we got to cover some of them.
Yeah, we will. And there's definitely been a huge kind of saturation of giallo, and he just kind of wanted to step away from it and that. But then when he did make his big comeback, a few years later, he directed what is regarded by many to be one of the very best. I don't really think. I mean, Tenebrae was his next one, which is quite a gap. There was a 7-year gap between Deep Red and Tenebrae. Because Tenebrae was released in 1982, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tenebrae comes across more as a slasher to me than a giallo. I know it's classed as a giallo and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't realise that. So obviously he went in between with the witch film.
Yeah, Suspiria 77, which again, Suspiria, great movie. My personal favourite Argento. Not a giallo per se.
I would sort of disagree, and I'd be in the minority there, but I'd sort of disagree with that.
Okay.
I think it has giallo elements.
It does have giallo, yeah,
easily.
definitely. It does have giallo elements.
Yeah.
But it's like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not officially classified as a slasher movie, but there are certainly slasher elements to it. It's
definitely a slasher movie to me. It's got a body count and everything.
Yeah. Because it's class. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is often dubbed as a proto-slasher, which I know, again, it's kind of, sometimes it's splitting hairs. I don't see Suspiria as a giallo, but I can fully understand why people do. There's certainly giallo elements to it. But Tenebrae, when Tenebrae was released, though, the giallo genre was pretty much dying out.
It was gone by then.
It was pretty much gone. You had a few films here and there come out. Blade in the Dark, released the next year by Lamberto Bava, released in 1983. Now, that's another movie. Is it giallo or is it slasher?
Oh, yeah. It's the period, isn't it, of the early 1980s. I suppose you could lump them into both.
Yeah.
I would look at it more as a slasher than a giallo or Blade in the Dark.
Yeah.
But that's a film I haven't seen for a while. I do own the Blu-ray. I need to watch that.
I really like A Blade in the Dark. It's actually
he's underrated, mine. The
Lamberto is. I mean, he had a tough act to follow. His dad's like the Italian godfather of horror, Mario Bava.
Oh yeah.
But Lamberto Bava has got some good films, some good movies under his belt. My personal favourite. I know a lot of people they probably have Demons up there. But mine is A Blade in the Dark, because I think A Blade in the Dark is a really scary, atmospheric giallo / slasher movie. I think it has some really good set pieces. There's one actual death scene in that movie that's pretty damn brutal. That's
I think it's, from what I remember, I can't remember much about it, but it's like quite a long film as well.
it is nearly 2 hours.
I
Yeah.
do remember the reveal of the killer being really good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's.
But yeah, that's something. Yeah, I will definitely need to revisit that. Maybe we can cover that.
Yeah, it's nearly 2 hours long, which is actually quite. Now Deep Red, is 2 hours 7 minutes, which is certainly very long for a giallo and quite long for a horror movie. Full stop. Now, and I do believe that originally there was going to be basically the original script. The script was over 600 pages.
Yeah, you said that earlier. That really surprises me.
Yeah, they had to cut a lot out to try and make it more accessible. I believe it was 300 something. It wasn't much over 300. So they almost halved it. I would have
loved to have seen like a 4-hour version. That would have been different anyway.
Yeah, I think the problem is sometimes, with a movie that's long, it's all well and good as long as the time is used wisely. As long as there's, admittedly, there are scenes in Deep Red that aren't necessary. There are scenes that don't really need to be there.
It's the build-up with Dario and Nickelodeon. It's the little love scenes and stuff, or the little bickering they do.
Yeah,
it's all that, and I can understand why people would rather watch the longer versions, because in watching the export version, even though it runs better, you do miss Dario and Nickelodeon in it. So it's like one of the two. It depends what mood you're in. Really.
Yeah. I do. It's very kind of playful. It lightens the tone of the film. It certainly lightens that tone, as you say. Argento, with nearly all of his films, whether it's I think for the most part it's really kind of intentional. He likes to put that kind of little stamp of humour and that in there, and but I don't think.
But if you notice with the humour, it doesn't detract from the film.
No, it doesn't.
From the.
No,
it really don't. It sort of just, like you said. I think he's just something he naturally can write a good, humorous scene.
Yeah, and I think Argento is Deep Red is certainly up there for me as one of the best. As I said, it's not my personal favourite Argento film. It's certainly my second favourite.
Right, I wouldn't go that far even. I would put it like, I don't know, 4th or 5th.
Oh, okay.
But I know that it's his best film.
Yeah.
So it sounds funny.
Yeah. No, it's all right, because at the end of the day, there are movies out there. I'll give you an example. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is, in my eyes, a great B movie. Is it one of the best horror films of all time? No, but do you know what? It's probably my personal favourite B movie.
I couldn't get through that, mate. I just really couldn't get through it.
All right, I'm going to have to hang up now. Sorry. It's been nice. You've been good, man. I've been like, it's been nice talking to you and all that. But no, I'm only kidding. No, that's fair enough. I love the film for just how unique it is. I love the film, how it stands on its own 2 feet, and there's no other film out there quite like it.
I would have to give it another go. It's been a long time. I just couldn't get through the first half of it.
It's not for everyone. It's a film that puts a unique spring on, the alien invasion genre. It's a film that throws a lot of kind of innovative ideas, brings a lot of fresh ideas to the table. But yeah, I will remark, is it the best B movie of all time? No. But I think it's great. It does have a cult following. There is a huge fan base actually out there for Killer Clowns. But no,
it's the same with something like, say, Pieces.
Yeah,
where it's just a cult
it's a
classic.
Guilty pleasure. Yeah,
that's the
it's
word
trashy
for,
fun. Pieces is not by any means like what I'd call a good film, but do you know what? I enjoy it.
And the New York Ripper being there. Every time I think of Pieces, I think of the New York Ripper as well.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same. It's just, it's brutal. Yeah,
that's probably
but
Fulch's
it's just fun.
Sleaziest film.
Yeah,
the New York Ripper. Yeah, I always feel like I need a shower after watching that.
It is. Yeah, I just think the whole like Donald Duck killer voice just that throws you a bit.
It's weird because it's kind of creepy but humorous at the same time. It's a weird one. It's like you don't know if to be unnerved or laugh. It's kind of a but it's a very brutal film, certainly. New York Ripper.
There's that scene
it is
in the bar with the guy with his foot, with his toes.
Yeah.
That's again.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, again, Fulci has a fan base, a very devout fan base. He's one of the great names in Italian horror. Big Fulci fan, as I'm sure you are.
I am, yeah. But funny enough, he just wasn't. At the time he was alive, he didn't realise it.
No.
Because there was no internet or nothing like that.
He's become a lot more appreciated over the years, certainly.
And it's a shame because he should have died knowing that he was a hero. You know, he was a top-class director.
Yeah. I mean...
he had a... Funny enough, we're talking about Argento, he had a bit of a rivalry, didn't they? They had a bit of a fallout, but they came together, I believe, to make... They were gonna come together to make Wax Mask, his last ever film, Fulci, but he died.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think during the start of production or something like that. And then the effects guy took over and directed it. It's Divoletti.
That's it. Yeah. Unfortunately, Italian horror cinema has never been the same. It's almost non-existent now. Italian horror cinema. You know, which really kicked off, I'd say, like, at its peak, like, 70s especially. I mean, 60s as well. Blood and Black Lace, which is my all-time favourite giallo, and I'd love to do a podcast on that.
Yeah, and that reminds me of this film, actually, because you've got that under the water, when he's putting the head under the water.
Yeah.
And I thought of Blood and Black Lace straight away.
It's very Hitchcockian, that film. And visually, Mario Bava, such attention to detail, just great use of colour and lighting. And he was actually a painter before becoming film director. And I think that actually kind of makes a transition into his films.
I think Argento took everything from Bava and just took it to a more... what's the word, to more updated version for the time. But some of Bava's films are absolutely just brilliant.
Bava, you could say, is the guy that really, the giallo kind of in a way exists because of him, with The Girl Who Knew Too Much. But then of course Argento is the one that really put his stamp on giallo, and Sergio Martino as well. What's that?
Yeah, Argento changed the giallo from being, like you say, some like more inheritance type. I think we said this in the last podcast. Yeah. But he sort of brought on the Black Glove Killer more.
Yeah, definitely. The kind of body count giallos, which there's kind of different subgenres of giallo. There are different giallos out there, but when I think giallo, and I'm sure you're the same here, first thing we think of is a killer killing people.
Yeah,
a body count movie, black gloves usually.
So I got a question for you. Do you class A Bay of Blood as a giallo or a slasher?
See, that's a tough one. That is probably the toughest one yet, because it's a movie that in a way set the template for slasher movies. There's actually scenes in there. There's a couple of scenes in particular that are taken right from the film and used in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Absolutely,
a machete to the head and the double impalement. Best death of the film, the double impalement on the bed.
I think it's the slasher, personally, but... It's a tough one to call that.
It's a tough one because, again, it was released at a time when slasher movies weren't really called slasher movies, and, Black Christmas, when it came out, there was no such term as slasher.
That's right.
Even Bob Clark even says it ain't a slasher film. He calls it a psychological horror movie. But I don't know. That's a tough. I'll tell you what. I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah. But it's funny when they say, like you're saying about Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
And it's not a horror film, or it's not a slasher film. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think it's just rubbish because they just don't want to be classed as like a slasher film. They see it as a really bad thing. But obviously, we're fans. We see it as a good thing.
Yeah, slasher movies were kind of They
kind of think they're better than the slasher. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they were frowned upon. When you think about like the time they were released in as well. Look how many films got on the Video Nasty list, and films that are critics. Roger Ebert, the most well-known critic out there, basically was not a horror fan, and a lot of these films were reviled by critics. So yes, slapping the slasher name on it automatically means it's a bad thing.
Roger Ebert, though, is just so he liked Halloween, and it was just really weird some of the choices that he liked
Yeah.
to
Halloween's
some of
one
the
of the
choices
few,
he
isn't it?
didn't.
Halloween's one of the few that come out and was actually met with some praise. Actual praise. Not just horror fans, but Halloween is a film that commercially, very commercially successful as well. Which was almost unheard of because Black Christmas came out 4 years prior. Black Christmas barely got any recognition.
Halloween owes a lot to Black Christmas because the story goes that John Carpenter was talking to Bob Clark, and John Carpenter said,
Yeah.
if you had to do a sequel to Black Christmas, what would you do?
Yeah.
And of course, he said, I would,
Yeah.
name it Black, do it over the Christmas period.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, Halloween period. And then I'd call it Halloween, and then that was it.
Yeah.
John had his idea.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, it's all.
No, yeah, I brought
Nick
that up.
Dead.
I actually talked about that on the Black Christmas podcast I did because, yeah, they were looking to do another seasonal slasher movie, but originally with the same killer, and it ended up becoming Halloween instead. But originally,
that's right.
Babysitter Murders, it wasn't even going to be set on Halloween. That was kind of even a kind of a last minute thing. But yeah, it was the success of Halloween that obviously helped kickstart the whole slasher genre. But there were films doing it earlier. There were movies doing it before Halloween. But
There was a lot more
yeah,
films. You could go as far as back as there's a film called The Haunted House of Horror, which was made in 1969, a
yeah,
British film,
yeah,
and that is like some of the scenes of that you could put into Friday the 13th,
yeah,
and that was 1969. So yeah, I think Carpenter, you can't knock Halloween in any way,
no,
but he does take a lot from other films.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, with Deep Red, we're going to wrap this up shortly. But yeah, Deep Red, great giallo, one of Argento's best, and yeah, I mean, most people I know that are giallo fans put this film really highly among their list of favourite giallos out there.
It's in the top 3 of everyone's list, I think.
Yeah, it's well made. It's great score, great effective set pieces with the kills. And there were loads. It's a film that stands out from the crowd, though. I think thanks to the direction, David Hemmings, the score especially.
It's Dario at his peak. I think this is Dario at his very peak.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit lucky to have all the different variations come into play where you got the Goblin came on board instead of Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
That we mentioned, and you got David Hemmings, that could have been different. So it just all came together and just,
Yeah.
you need a little bit of luck to make a classic.
No,
and
yeah.
that it's just all came together in this one big melting pot.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And I think it does have one of the best reveals as well. I think it does actually have one of the best killer reveals in a giallo as well.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have got it at all. I didn't get it at all the first time.
We've had a few female killers in films. Obviously, Pamela Voorhees, Friday the 13th, and urban legend Scream 2, Mrs. Loomis, which, of course, is very much a nod to Mrs. Voorhees from Friday the 13th and that. But yeah, these female killers were about in Bird with the Crystal Plumage and Deep Red and that long before.
Dario sort of I think he invented the female killer. Really, I can't remember too much before.
No, we'd have to do some research on that one. I can't think of the earliest film that ever had a body count movie, essentially, with a female as a killer. I don't.
You got Psycho, but that's not really a female.
No, it's Norman. Spoiler alert! Exactly. Spoiler alert! Yeah, spoiler alert there.
I think everyone knows that.
Well, if they haven't seen Psycho, I don't know what to say.
I'm thinking everyone would have seen Deep Red as well, hopefully. So
I'd like to think so, because Psycho is one of the most iconic horror movies of all time. But that's for another podcast, because Psycho is one of my all-time favourites. It is probably my favourite Hitchcock film, very closely followed by Vertigo. And I do want to do a Psycho podcast, actually, at some point.
That put Frenzy in there as well, I would.
Frenzy. Frenzy's not one of my personal favourites. I know my mum loves it. My mum's a big fan of that movie. I felt like Hitchcock at that point, his kind of golden years were kind of behind him, but Frenzy's still a good movie. I still like it, but
Frenzy is a giallo, I think. It's pretty much an Americanized giallo.
It does. Well, it's British, isn't it?
Is it British?
It's British.
Well, it's definitely got giallo.
It does certainly have. Yeah, it does certainly have some of the elements
in London,
there.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Frenzy actually was also loosely based on a real life serial killer. Jack the Stripper in the 1960s. It was actually a serial killer stalking the streets of London that actually killed women, stripped them naked, and their bodies were found in the river. And to this day, the killer is still unidentified. It's an unsolved case.
Oh, funny enough, I've been reading up on that, and there's a documentary that's been produced in Wales, and the killer they think is who done the killings actually come from Newport, where I live.
Oh wow, Christ!
He's a Welsh man. Yeah. He killed 2 kids. He did back in, you know, and then got out, and then obviously he went to London, and they think it's him anyway.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap it up now. This has gone. Yeah, this is probably the longest this is the longest podcast.
Sorry,
but no, it's cool. No, it's cool. It's been good fun. So thanks to everyone that listened. We'll be back again soon to haunt you and torment you. And we're actually going to be doing a podcast on a pretty obscure giallo called The House with Laughing Windows. It's definitely a giallo that I feel deserves more attention. And that's going to be the next film.
And I look forward to that as well.
Yeah, me too. All right, thanks to everyone that listened, and adios for now.
Goodbye, everyone.